If you have trouble pronouncing words in English, you're not alone. I'm a native English speaker and an accent coach, and there are words that I have trouble pronouncing. Today I'm going to share 10 words that I find difficult to pronounce in English, even as a native English speaker. Some of these words are commonly pronounced by native English speakers, others are just my personal challenges, and still others are hard for anybody to pronounce. By watching this video, I hope you feel more confident knowing that even native English speakers make mistakes. No matter how well spoken they are, it is still possible for them to make mistakes when pronouncing English. I hope you feel more confident knowing that we all make mistakes and all we can do is try to fix our mistakes and keep moving forward. As we get started with this video, I want to tell you about my inspiration for this video. I recently had brunch with a group of friends and we were discussing Earl Grey tea. This type of tea, you may be familiar with it if you've ever tried this at a Starbucks or a local coffee shop. So I mentioned that Earl Grey tea had bergamot in it. I was trying to describe the certain citrus flavor that gives Earl Grey its distinctive flavor. As we continued to discuss Earl Grey tea, I noticed that my friend pronounced it bergamot. And so, of course, when I got home, I looked up the pronunciation and realized that I've been pronouncing this word wrong for years. Earl Grey is one of my favorite types of tea, and I've been pronouncing bergamot wrong for a really long time. And as you can see, I still have trouble saying that word. This happens when we rehearse words in our own heads. We don't have a chance to say them out loud, and so we rehearse them wrong again and again and again until it becomes a bad habit. As a non-native English speaker, you may relate to this because this is how we have accent habits that we need to unlearn in order to reduce our accent. Let me give you another example. You may be familiar with the word sword. A sword is a weapon that people used to use in ancient times in order to fight battles. But for some reason, I rehearse this word in my own head as sword. For some reason, I've been saying this word sword in my head since my childhood. Even though I know the W is silent, I still say sword. So when I speak out loud, I often mispronounce this word because I've been saying it to myself over and over again using the incorrect pronunciation. Now let's talk about another word that's challenging for me that I only recently realized I was mispronouncing. That's the word kilometer. I've been saying kilometer for years and years and years. It's 3 kilometers away. Because we use miles here in the United States, I never heard a native English speaker use the word kilometer. I've been saying kilometer and I thought that was the correct pronunciation until I did a little research. So you should be pronouncing the word kilometer, and that's going to be more easy for a native English speaker to understand. Don't blame me because Americans have this weird system of measurement for distances. Another word that I find challenging to pronounce is the word jewelry. Jewelry. I say jewelry, and I recently researched this word and realized that it's pronounced jewelry. Jewelry. I can't even really get it right. There is the secondary pronunciation of the word, which is the one I'm using, jewelry. And so I have been pronouncing it correct using my regional pronunciation, but it's actually pronounced jewelry. 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 I'm gonna have to look that one up. Jewelry. Jewelry. The reason that I thought I was pronouncing it correctly is that I thought there was a difference between the British pronunciation and the American pronunciation, but it turns out I'm just using a non-standard pronunciation. It is in the dictionary, but the word should be pronounced jewelry. A similar example that a lot of people struggle with is the word miniature. I have been saying miniature, miniature, miniature for a really long time, but when I did a little investigation, I realized the word is actually pronounced miniature. Again, I thought it was because the British pronunciation was miniature and that Americans just said miniature, but as it turns out, miniature is a non-standard pronunciation of the word and it should be miniature. Now let's move on to 2 words that often cause a lot of debate regarding how to pronounce it. First, let's start with the word niche or niche. Niche or niche. I'm not really sure which one to use. This word is really common when you're talking about businesses because you're talking about focusing on a certain niche. 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 The word is actually pronounced differently depending on the region of the country, the person, and potentially the accent, but it can be pronounced niche like the French or niche. I think I read that Americans say niche and British say niche, but I actually say niche, and then I get confused and I often feel embarrassed and I go back and forth, just like you've heard in this video, saying niche or niche, niche or niche. I keep comparing the two because I feel like I'm not choosing the right one for the person who's listening to me. The thing you need to understand is that both pronunciations are accepted, and chances are the person who's listening to you will understand it. A similar word that has always confused me is the word coupon. I mean, coupon. Coupon, coupon. As it turns out, the correct pronunciation is probably coupon because it comes from French. Even though we don't pronounce it the way it would be in French, we say coupon. But I actually have grown up saying coupon, coupon. So in my head, the correct pronunciation is coupon, even though I do understand people when they say coupon. There is actually a huge debate between native English speakers about the correct pronunciation of this word because people have learned a pronunciation based on their regional accent and they've stuck to it. Turns out that people from the New England area like me tend to say coupon, but for some reason I learned coupon and that's what I still say today. To be honest, I sometimes switch between the two, but I'm more loyal to coupon, even though I know that's not the standard pronunciation. Next, we're going to talk about a word that always ends up on a list of the top 10 most difficult to pronounce words in English. That word is rural. If you're saying, oh my goodness, I cannot say the word rural, don't worry, you are not alone. Many native English speakers, just like myself, have trouble saying that word. Why is that? Because in American English, we have that very American R. So the word has two of them, rural. Rural. It's kind of embarrassing to say on camera, but it's the way it's pronounced. Rural. Rural. For those of us who have a regional accent where we do pronounce words with our mouths a little more closed, like me, it's hard to say a word like rural, because I really have to think about it. If I'm pronouncing in the midst of a sentence, it's a little easier to say that word. I'm from a rural area because I can kind of hurry through that word. But if I try to pronounce the word in isolation, it sounds weird. This is why I often tell you to make sure you pronounce words as part of a phrase. It's easier to say sometimes. You may be understood by context and you don't have to worry about having the exact precise pronunciation of the word. Another word that's really hard for me to say is the word mirror. I have to really think about it. When I was in college, I realized I was mispronouncing this word. My roommate at the time told me that she had noticed I said mirror wrong, but she didn't want to tell me until I noticed it myself. I was saying something like mirror, 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 mirror. I can't even really say it. Mirror. I have to really remember to move my mouth a little bit more. Like the word rural, it's hard when there's so many R's together. Mirror, 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 mirror. And because we tend to move through this word a little more quickly, I'm not always going to say, let's look in the mirror. If you have trouble saying that word, you are not alone. I join you in the difficulty with the word mirror. The last word I'm going to share today that's really difficult to pronounce, I may not even pronounce correctly on the video. Before I hit record, I practiced it a few times to see if I could get it right. And it is the word hierarchy. Hierarchy. Hierarchy? Hierarchy. I find this word really hard to say. It has a lot of different vowels in it. It has stress that I'm not quite comfortable with. And even though I actually do use this word in conversation, I stumble across it every time. This is one of those longer words that's more technical, and it may be when you're talking about people's status in an organization. So I often try to choose levels, different status levels. I try to choose other words than hierarchy because I don't actually know how to say hierarchy correctly. Because I have so much trouble with this word, I'm not going to teach you how to say it in this video, but just understand, I have trouble with words. It's a little embarrassing how hard that word is for me, but I want you to understand that that's normal. It is normal to have trouble pronouncing these different words. Hierarchy. Hierarchy. It's really hard to say. After watching this video, I hope you feel more confident knowing that even trained professionals like me who help people reduce their accents and sound more like a native speaker do have trouble pronouncing words as well. Like I always say, native English speakers make mistakes too, so you don't have to worry about making mistakes. The goal is to recover from the mistake and keep going. If I make a mistake with pronunciation and conversation, I usually acknowledge the mistake, say I always have trouble with this word, and then keep going with the conversation. At times, it can lead to a funny conversation about words that are difficult to pronounce. The reason mistakes like this are more challenging for non-native speakers is that you may feel like it's a reflection on your ability to speak English. Native English speakers know it's their native language, so they just keep going. So I just want you to understand it's usually good to just laugh about making the mistake and then just keep going with the conversation. So now that you know the 10 words that I find difficult to pronounce in English, what are words that you often feel like you're mispronouncing? Leave a comment and let me know. Once again, I'm Kim from EnglishWithKim.com. I'm your guide to the essential conversation skills you need to sound more natural in English. Have a good one. Goodbye.